Hello, good morning, just about still,
Yeah.
everyone. What I will do is just give you a bit of an overview of sort of what sort of why are we here today, really, and a bit about CPI first and foremost for those of you who don't know and maybe haven't come across us before. CPI was established sort of 44 years ago, back in 1980, and we've been sort of expanding ever since. We work across several continents, and we have a main aim of sort of giving staff confidence and helping individuals receive outstanding care. To date, so far, we've trained over 17 million people, which is a massive figure, and we currently have over 42,000 instructors across the world in the US, Australia, the Middle East, and here in Great Britain and Ireland as well. So why are we here? What are we going to talk about? So we're going to talk on three sort of key elements today. First and foremost, a bit about how we got here, the inception of the course and what's led us to create the Essential Care course. We're also going to look at a bit about what you and your team will gain from this course, if you feel it's right for you. What are the skills that we're going to give you, and then how can we give you those skills? What are the different delivery methods? What are the timings, and how that's going to work in the sort of what happens next part of this program. So I think it's probably best that we just start at the beginning, really. Myself, I speak with hundreds of customers every week, and I've always had conversations with people, and they said that they needed to find a course that works for their individuals, in making sure that they keep their dignity and increase sort of hygiene levels. And feedback told us that the application ran deeper than just sort of clinical treatments. For those that know us, we have a clinical holding course already, that focuses around sort of bloods and sort of essential treatments, and it's very clinical. But we found that we were missing. We had a bit of a gap in what we were actually looking for, and that gap was for those caregivers that are looking to provide personal care and essential treatments. I speak to organisations on a regular basis, and I'll always ask the question, do you have any incidents whereby an individual becomes distressed or lashes out or displays behaviours that might challenge? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is quite often no. So I'll often look to rephrase that question a little bit and sort of ask, do you have any incidents where an individual maybe lashes out or isn't their usual sort of pleasant self during sort of personal care? And the feedback to that is yes. The most times that they find staff maybe get hurt, or even an individual gets hurt, is during that essential care treatment, that personal care treatment that they're being delivered. That then led us to look at how can we find out a bit more information about this. What is going to give us the ideas of what the sector really needs to solve this problem. And we went out to a number of focus groups. We worked with a lot of the leading large care providers across the country at the moment, and ran a number of focus groups, predominantly for companies that work with those with dementia. The focus groups threw up pretty much the same answer across the board, which was the biggest pain point for the sector was essentially around providing individuals with assistance with their personal care. That's when they saw that the behaviour deteriorated the most. Our research sort of led us down a path where our product team could develop a product using CPI's core values, which are care, welfare, safety and security. And that allowed us to create this essential care and support program. And it is designed pretty much specifically for the needs of the sector and what they require. We've used the term a lot so far. It's the name of the course. It's quite a term that you'll hear a lot this afternoon, and that is, what is essential care? I think, Susie, you're probably going to be best placed to answer,
Thank you,
what is
Max.
essential care?
Yeah, so I'd like to just to delve a bit deeper into the program. So thinking about what is essential care, you can see there from your screen that essential care and support is helping someone who lacks capacity with their activities of daily living, or their ADLs. And we'll look a bit further into that in a few moments. We need to ensure that their needs are met in a safe, respectful, and also, really importantly, a legally compliant manner. So we'll come back. I want to come back to the definition as we go through the rest of the webinar. So this course, just 4 modules in length, it's going to guide you and your staff, because I know some of you are managers, through a process whereby you'll be able to define and understand essential care. It says there that it's about working and helping people who lack capacity. So who are the people then that might lack capacity? So we've already said that the course is being developed for staff who just deliver essential care to individuals who sometimes may be unable to make an informed decision about their basic care needs. And this may well be due to a lack of capacity. The lack of capacity, that may be because of a reduced cognitive ability, either due to an intellectual disability or to a degenerative neurological condition such as dementia. Now, many of the individuals will not display signs of distress until, until staff need to intervene to support them with an activity that's necessary for their well-being. So an example of this might be changing an incontinence pad and performing skincare. This may prompt behaviours from the individual, such as trying to grab the clothing of the staff or their own clothing, or they may even try to lash out at staff. That individual may well feel scared, they may feel vulnerable, they may be confused, and they'll try to prevent staff from removing their clothing. Now, this can then often result in injuries to both staff and individuals, and it's always a traumatic event for everyone concerned. So here's a question for you, if you wouldn't mind using the question and answer facility. I'd like you to think about some of the essential care tasks that are often difficult for you, or for you, those of you who don't have any direct care requirement. Think about your team. So an example that we've already mentioned is skin care for incontinence. So what other examples do you have of when your staff need to intervene to help people?
I think that's a really interesting question, because I do think we're going to get, hopefully a variety of answers, some that we maybe haven't considered,
hopefully.
we haven't thought of. With each setting being slightly different, I think there's going to be almost little niches, isn't there, across different services, different settings, whether that's going to be in a supported living setting or an elderly care home. I think we're going to get a bit of a range of answers. So you can put them in the Q&A function at the moment, and Ollie very nicely has put the question in there for you, just so you're aware. But it's going to look at some of the different, treatments that we might face. So we've had one come in already. So getting people up and dressed for the day.
Perfect, thank you. That's a really good example of when we need to support people. Is getting them up in the morning, getting them dressed for the day.
Absolutely. Another one, this is a really good one, actually, helping people shower.
All part of those daily needs, things that people need to do on a daily basis to support people.
I think that's a really important one for hygiene as well, and that sort of
absolutely
that side of things.
Absolutely.
If you're anything like me, I feel 10 times better after I've had a shower in the morning. You just you feel a lot more comfortable in your own skin. Another one, cutting toenails, fingernails.
Another perfect one. Yeah, absolutely.
Considered.
And I see there oral care and helping people to wash, changing clothing, dressing or undressing. Those are all really, really typical examples and really good examples.
The ideal.
First aid as well there from somebody. So thank you all for taking the time to put that in the question and answer. I'll come back to some of those very, very shortly, I think. So within the course, we want to consider trauma and a trauma-informed approach. So we know that we need to recognise how to deliver a high-quality, essential care whilst avoiding causing additional trauma. And as Max mentioned before, we're going to do that within our value base of care, welfare, safety and security. And let's just take a second to remember that it's not only our clients or residents that can suffer from trauma, it's staff as well, isn't it? So how does the lack of capacity then impact on people's lives? So let's refer back to some of the questions the answers that you give me to my question. So we had things like moving people around, personal care, showering, changing people, giving people first aid.
Yeah.
So all of those fit so nicely within those examples that you've given. We refer to them as activities of daily living, and they all fit perfectly within those. So people with a lack of capacity may not be able to independently maintain their own activities of daily living. And as staff, we often have to assist them, or sometimes we have to assume complete responsibility for those activities. So just to formalise those basic tasks that are included in the activities of daily living, we've got things like dressing, which you mentioned, bathing and hygiene, which you mentioned, eating, going to the toilet, and also moving around, which you mentioned as well.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for all of those examples. They all come under our activities of daily living. So people who lack capacity have three areas of major challenges, and those challenges come under cognitive and sensory, and that is how we think about and sense the world around us. So that's, do the people that you support, do they recognise where they are? Do they recognise the people that are there to support them? The second one then is physical and motor coordination, and that's people's ability to move around and their ability to do things for themselves. So again, because of that maybe lack of capacity, it might be that people don't recognise the area that they're in. They don't recognise and have the ability to move around and do things for themselves. And the third one there is emotional and social. And that's how we feel about ourselves and about other people. That's about how well do we know the people that support us? Do we have the ability to recognise those people? How does it make us feel when people have to come in and help us with our activities of daily living? How does it make us feel as staff when we have to come in and take over those activities of daily living for the people that we care for? So I think the interesting thing is that emotional and social impact, it affects both staff and the service users or people that we support.
And I think that's important to recognise both.
Yeah.
Both involved are going to be affected.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in this course, you're going to look at and identify a step-based preventative approach to improve the care that you deliver. It will help you to uphold dignity and also to maximise independence. We will identify how this step-based approach changes when a person has maximum independence, and we look at that on a continuum to where they have maximum dependence. We're going to talk about how we support people and the way our approaches to supporting those people have to change at each level. So sometimes it might be for people with almost maximum independence. It might just be some environmental modifications that we have to make. Moving side tables, making sure that the lights are on in the facility, in the room, and making sure that there's signs up on doors, etc. And that goes right up then to maximum dependence. And that's when we may need to put hands on people to support them with their activities of daily living. I'm going to hand back now to Max, who's going to give you some more of an
give a bit of an overview on how that breaks down, because I think that it's really important that we look at that step-based approach and realise that it's more than just a hands-on course. There is a lot more elements to it, isn't there? And we've broken that down into sort of 4 key modules, and we wanted to do that mainly to make it quite easy for staff to digest. Wanted to make sure the course was also time efficient. We know that time can be poor in the sector at certain times, and freeing up staff is difficult. So we tried to make it as time efficient and effective as possible. When we looked at devising this course, there was a couple of other considerations as well. So things like duty of care was really important. Looking at some of the compliance and legal framework that's out there at the moment. I think a big one for those based in England was we looked quite closely at Regulation 10 of the CQC guidelines, which is all around dignity and respect.
Yeah.
That's really important. And then, that relates there very well to what you've just covered in the step-based approach in module 3. And it works well in sort of collaboration. They all tie in quite well together. It leads us on to a really good question of how do we know if we're going to be working in someone's best interest? A best interest decision is really, really important. And we've got 4 key components that we really need to consider. The first one, I think, it's something that is talked a lot about in the sector at the moment. It's been a really positive change, hasn't it, in terms of making it sure it's a person-centered approach. That individual, can be needs to be the priority of every decision that we make, and it's not a one shoe fits all situation. We need to consider everything that matters for that individual.
And the level of support might change for that individual. It might be somewhere today, and tomorrow might be a lot higher or a lot lower. So it changes from day to day, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that leads on to the second point, which is be fair. Don't come into it with a bias. Just because of someone of their age or their history or how they've behaved previously, doesn't mean that that's going to be the same today. So we need to look at what's going to be in their best interest at this point, and have we taken other steps to make sure that we've looked at other considerations. Point number 3, I think, it speaks for itself. Involve your individual. Make sure that they're involved in the sort of decision making, and try and work with them as much as possible.
I think it's key, isn't it? People are experts in their own lives.
Yeah, absolutely. People like to have control as much as possible of their own decision making, and we know that's not always possible, but you've got to try and give them the opportunity. Absolutely. And I think number 4 is really, really crucial as well. Lean on the people around you. Yeah. I think that you'll be able to walk down the corridor today or look at the other staff that are in with you today and know that they'll be able to give you another considered approach, another considered idea. But it goes further than that. The individual's family, their friends, other people who know that individual really, really well, they're going to be able to help you make that best interest decision for that person. Yeah. We wanted to give a bit of a representation of some of the actual physical skills, because there are physical skills involved in this course. That's the final step on that step-based approach. We wanted to make sure that they, gave your staff the tools to be the most confident that they could be when carrying out essential care. And that for me is crucial. I think when you're confident in something and you know what you're doing, you're going to get the best outcome. You're really going to be able to deliver the best outcome for that individual at that point, but also the best outcome for you as a staff member. You're going to be able to make sure you keep yourself safe and you feel happy and confident in your role. I think, if we look at what sort of happens next, as we mentioned earlier, we wanted to make the course short, concise and time efficient. And so we've broken it down into 2 stages, which I'll come on to later in terms of delivery. But we've broken it down into a 1-day train the trainer course, or actually a 3.5 hours roughly for it to be a classroom learning, and that's with all 4 modules covered. That's the the theory elements, the first 3 steps on that step-based approach, and then the physical skills in step 4. I get feedback all the time of how important it is that we can't free up staff for 3-4 days at a time, because it's just not it's not consistent with what the sector requires at the moment. So we've really condensed it and made it really time efficient for you as well. As I mentioned, we do have those 2 delivery methods. For me, I'm a massive fan of the train the trainer option. I think it extends further, doesn't it, than just a training course. When I speak to people around a train the trainer, I almost say that trainer becomes almost an internal champion at your organisation for this element, for best interest decisions, for making sure that you are working with the team, that if there are any issues arising, if you have certain situations that you find yourself in, you have a go-to person in that organisation. They being a champion or being a go-to person, they learn so much on our train the trainer course that they can be referred to. Or if there are any questions that that trainer has, they can come back to us. We have a support function that works sort of 9 to 5. We have an email that works throughout the evening as well, which I think is fantastic, and that provides ongoing support for a trainer. But that being said, it doesn't, if you have a direct delivery from one of our sort of highly skilled global professional instructors, the support doesn't stop in the end of the classroom. When you leave, that's not it for a couple of years, and you have to make your own way in the world. We're there to sort of hold your hand step by step, along the process. And we can do, our instructors better than me, but they're a very highly skilled bunch. They've all had years and years in the sector, and that's a requirement for us to make sure that they can really assist your staff and help them if they are going out to deliver a course. So I think it's a good time for us to sort of summarise a bit about what we've come to, and I really wanted to put that top bullet point in there. I think that for us, that's something that runs through all of our training alongside our values, but we've got to maximise safety and minimise harm.
Yeah, for everybody.
For everybody involved. I think that isn't just your residents or your individuals, it's your staff, it's everybody that's going to be around the situation at the time, isn't
everybody involved.
It's really important. Maintaining dignity is absolutely huge.
Key.
The staff are going to have confidence to go and help individuals with personal care throughout that period. So and the final one is increased staff confidence. I think that speaks for itself. It's absolutely massive for staff to make to feel comfortable and confident when they come into work that day, and know that if they're going to have to do essential care with somebody, that they can do it, and they can be confident that it's going to work.
Absolutely. To do it,
I speak to a lot of people who go through different phases, swapping out staff members and work. So we want everyone to be in that position where they feel confident and comfortable to be able to do that. So in terms of questions, I think it's a good time to open up the floor and see if we've had any questions come through at all. If you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat. So we've got a good one here. Is there a workbook for this course? And that's quite an exciting one. It is. It's for the first time ever, we are doing digitized workbooks. We wanted to be a bit more green, and we wanted to be able to give you a bit more options with your training as well. So we've digitized the workbooks. They're still of the sort of highest quality that you'd expect from CPI. But yes, there is a workbook for this course, whether you do the train the trainer or if you have it direct from one of our instructors.
Yeah.
The next one, how often do you need to renew the course? And that's a really good question, because that's one I know we sort of toyed with a little bit, didn't we? So once attended, both for an instructor and if you have a direct delivery from one of our instructors, we're going to work off a 2-year renewal cycle, aren't we?
That's correct.
Again, in the essence of making sure that your staff are still equipped, but we're not taking them off the floor for too long, and we're making sure that they can focus on what they really need to do, which is the sort of the day-to-day work and day-to-day jobs. So here's one. If a service we already deliver CH instructors need to complete essential care as well, I think that's a decision that you make with your account manager and you make with internally, because there is differences from clinical holding.
You don't need to complete it as such. However, as Max mentioned, this deals with slightly different manifestations of problems than clinical holding does. So clinical holding is based around holding people to allow a clinical procedure to take place. Whereas this course, what we hope will happen for your staff is it's the day-to-day things. It's the washing, it's the dressing, it's the undressing, it's the showering. It's those things that need to happen and are not necessarily clinical procedures.
Yes.
But that would be down to your assessment of need within your service.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that we can, you can discuss with your account manager or me or one of my team here at CPI. We can walk you through the different steps and what's going to be a best fit. We run through that thorough T&A with everybody to make sure that what you get is fit for purpose.
Yeah. Another really good question. Yeah. Can you add this on to the end of the training that you already do? You absolutely could. Absolutely could. And if you decide to take this training up and come and see it and come and do it, you will see that it really dovetails very nicely with the existing SI training that we have available.
Absolutely. I think it dovetails in quite nicely with everything, and it's fit for that purpose. Can you have 2 sessions in a day? Two cohorts staff?
No reason why not.
Absolutely.
No reason why not.
I think it's more time efficient. Have a morning and an afternoon session. We do that quite often with these sort of courses. So absolutely you can. In terms of we've had a couple of questions around cost and application within the organisation. The best people definitely, I think, are going to speak to your independent account managers at that point, and they can give you a really good overview, maybe a bit more detailed. They'll understand your service specifically a bit more to see if it works, and give you full course overviews with a lot more detail in it. We do have, we've got documents of full overviews and everything like that to make sure that it is going to work for you. Similarly with the cost is something we'll catch up with your account manager on. And the final question around the RRN standards, it's a really interesting one. So I know that we're in discussion with them at the moment to see where it's going to sit and where it's going to stand. It's not a quick yes or no answer we can give you at the moment, but it's one that we're in process of discussing with them and making sure that they're happy with it and it fits with their requirements. And so far, I think it's been met very well. But we're just waiting for the final few. Dotting the I's and crossing the T's, as it were, when it comes to the RRN.
Are there different tips and techniques that this programme teaches that are different to foundation safety intervention? I think that's another really interesting question. Are there gaps in staff's knowledge when they go back to work after doing SI? And my guess is that there's an application of the principles within essential care that will fill those gaps if they exist. So thinking about elderly care, there are undressing people who try to hold on to their clothing, who try to grab their jumpers and their shirts. I think there is a gap there, and I think that this course really meets it very nicely.
I think also looking at the situational application of some of it as well, looking at showering and things like that, it's a little bit different. It's a different scenario. It's going to require some different problem solving, and that's what we've done with this program. That we
do it is very different because it's for people who lack capacity. So they don't set out to be aggressive, violent. It's when we try to assist them in those activities of daily living that we plan to do this. So there's a different kind of emphasis on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we take this as the final question around the instructor renewal. So if you were an instructor, it's a 2-year renewal cycle. And that's the same for your staff as well. At the end, it's a 2-year renewal cycle for this program. So I think that's hopefully everything covered. If you have any more questions, absolutely, and I know we've referred a few back to your account manager. So please do reach out to CPI, and we can put you in touch with one of my team, or myself, or one of the other account managers here at CPI, who can absolutely walk you through it, hold your hand, and talk you through the course, and go from there.
Thank you very much for those of you who have joined us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon.
Yep.